Good morning, children. Today we're going to talk about advanced parallel drum compression. Advanced, ooh la la, as we say. What we're going to do is we're going to start where we left off with the regular parallel drum compression. If you remember, we had two buses, a clean bus and a crush bus, and they were both fed the same drums. Here's what's different in the advanced version of that. The first step is to separate the two buses, different sources for each one of them. So I'm going to switch this one to something called drum crush. I'm going to sand, if you have sand, all the drums to that drum crush. So now you have a regular mix down here that goes to the clean bus. And then you have a separate mix up here that goes to my crush bus, and they're independent. You can do this in Logic and Cubase all the same. I'm going to switch to this mode here so that I can see what's going on. A nice thing about Pro Tools is I can automatically copy my mix, my regular mix down here, to the sand. Boom. And now I have the exact same mix here and here. The next step is to put everybody pre, so that the mix up here is independent from the mix down here. And now I can listen to my clean bus, and then my crush bus. The beauty now is that I can actually change the mix of my crush bus without touching the mix of my clean bus. At this point, they're both the same because I just copied the clean mix to the crush mix, but I can start making changes. Let's listen. This is my crush bus on its own with the current mix. Okay, that works. I think there's a little too much snare though, and I think the bass drum maybe is a little too boomy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play it, and I'm going to adjust my mix up here to my liking. I am probably going to take the snare down, the outside bass drum microphone down, and the inside bass drum microphone up while listening to the compressor freaking out. Here we go. I think that would work. If you listen to it with the clean bus, it sounds like this. That's very neat. As a reference, this is what happens if I switch back to my original system where both the clean and the crush bus are fed with the same signal. That's the original way. Now I'm going to switch to the new way with a separate mix. Pay attention to the attack of the bass drum and the presence of the snare. Now it's not as loud, but I think it's more balanced and more interesting. I can raise the level a little bit to match, but that's the spirit. So you have full control. You can compensate for what a compressor will do. Say some compressors are going to freak out on the bass drum, you can send less bass drum. Say the compressor are freaking out on the overhead because there's too much cymbals, you can take the cymbals down. It requires some thinking, but it's not that hard. And I really think that the extra flexibility far outweighs the extra complexity. Now, let's dig deeper. We've been doing parallel compression on the whole drum set. How about we do a little parallel compression on individual instruments? First, let's do the bass drum. I have already created a little bass drum parallel compression bus just for you. You'll notice that output is sum, which is the clean bus. I'm also sending it to the crush bus. You don't have to send it to both. You can send it to either or. I like to send it to both. The input is called parallel bass drum. I am going to send the inside bass drum microphone to my parallel bass drum bus. Why? Because I think I need more punch and not as much boom. It's already boomy enough. So I'm going to set it on pre. Raise the level here. Stay with me. I'm going to show you the signal path. This track right here, called bass drum in, is being sent to the sum, clean bus, to the crush bus, to the parallel bass drum, crush bus, which is this one right here. And then this crushed parallel bass drum is being sent to the sum and to the crush. Simple, right? And it sounds like this. If I listen to just the crushed bass drum. As a reminder, this is the bypassed. What am I trying to do here? I'm just trying to make it like more dense and more compact and get a little bit of that thing going. And if I have the attack open enough, which it is, then I'll have a little punch too. And if I play all three bass drums together, it sounds like this. As a reminder, without the compression, it sounds like this. With it's a little more dense, it's got a little more tail, it's got a little more of that pock in the 200-300 hertz, which is nice. Let's do the same thing to the snare. Here's my parallel snare drum. Same exact principle. I'm going to send the snare into it via a bus. Parallel snare, here you go. I make it pre, give it some level. Here's the snare. Here's the compression. Here's the snare without the compression. And with. It's just a little vibe, right? A little crush, a little something. It's not as drastic as one would expect, but it still does something very nice to the kind of like the depth of the snare, depth this way, and also depth this way. Lengthens the tail a little bit, and it gives it a little fuzzy tone, so it's not as real sounding. I like that. It's time to listen to the whole thing. First, let's listen to it raw with no compression at all. Then, let's turn on the parallel compression bus on the whole kit with the custom mix, and then individual parallel compression for bass drum and snare drum, and see how the kit grows. Listen to the attack of the instruments, but more importantly, listen to the sound stage and to how the drums make you feel. It's okay to close your eyes. I won't do anything funny while you have your eyes closed. It's a promise. So first, raw. Parallel compression on the whole kit. Bass drum and snare drum. Going from the raw sound to the fully processed sound is a nice trip. It's like documentary to movie or real versus dream. The beauty is that since you're parallel compressing, you're not ruining your transients. You have to be gentle with your transients. Transients are people too. You also have to be very careful with your phase. Let's look at a situation where parallel compression can become a hindrance if you're not paying attention to phase. Check it out. If you do this a lot, you're going to have the urge to use EQs so that you can custom tailor your drum compression bus further. Why not? Since you're having a separate mix, why not, a separate tone? What I'm going to do is I'm going to add just a simple little EQ on my parallel bus. And I'm going to listen to it raw. That sounds good. But I may have the urge, for example, to clean up the bottom. I'm known for high passing everything, right? So what if I wanted to high pass this? Make a nice little filter, say 36 dB per octave, turn it on, and then start high passing it. So if you listen to it right now, sounds good. This, for example, would be a good way to get a lot of the pock and push it through, and lots of the boom, boom, boom on the parallel bus. But here's the problem. Check this out. Let's turn the clean bus back on and listen to the two of them together. Houston, we have a problem. What's going on? Well, what's going on is the bass is gone, even on the clean bus, even though we're high passing only the crush bus. Why is that? That's because we're using a very steep filter. And what goes on when you use a very steep filter is that there's all sorts of phase shifting weirdness at the cutoff frequency. What you're hearing is the crush bus becoming out of phase at a cutoff frequency with the clean bus and ruining the bass on the clean bus. So what are your options if you really, really want to change the tone of your crush bus? Well, number one, you could use a linear phase EQ. That works. Number two, you could choose not to. That works great. It's very fast. Number three, you could use gentler processing, which is like, say, a 6 dB per octave filter or shelf EQ. You're still going to have some phase shifting, but not that much. You can get around it. Number four, you could process the source tracks. But if you process the source tracks, then your clean bus will get affected too, which is kind of a headache. That's why it's really interesting to have that separate mix for the crush bus. One mix for your clean bus and one mix for your crush bus, which allows you to alleviate some of the problems, change the tonal balance without having to use EQ on your parallel processing bus. Et voilà.